Today we got a special treat. We're doing a live consult with a family with a plethora of issues going on. So this is going to be really unique. This is Your Health Reclaimed. I'm Dr. Brad, veteran functional medicine doc. We're the ones who get people well after they've seen multiple docs for years, decades, never got any help, and we usually get them healthy again. Huge percentage of that. So today we have Rebecca and Scott with us. I got a couple questions before we jump into things. Scott, for you, with the broken femur, which femur was that?
My left.
And which knee is it you having problems with?
The left.
Okay. How did you break that?
A football. And running back planted his knee in the side of my femur. We were running different directions, not looking, and it snapped the end of my medial condyle clean off.
How old were you when that happened?
15. Maybe 14.
I'm writing down a note on this. Did the knee problem develop right away, or did that come later?
Later.
How much later?
30 years.
30 years?
Yeah, so
20 years.
I mean, I had some knee problems from the military, just from the overuse of it. So I had some clicking and popping and soreness. But when we had our first child, so this is back in 2019, I was getting into bed holding him, and I went to turn, and my foot got stuck in the sheet, and my leg, my bottom half of my leg stopped while I kept rotating, and it came out and tore my meniscus. And yeah, ever since then, it's been giving me problems.
So that was in 2019, you said?
Yeah. So now if I bend and twist in the wrong direction with the wrong force, it just slides out, and sometimes it pops back in. Sometimes I need to go see the chiropractor to have him get it back aligned so the hinge is right.
What kind of therapies have you done for that?
Not much.
You said not much?
No. I originally had I had an MRI done, and they said I had a meniscal tear, and no, I really didn't want to do surgery, but I still couldn't walk at that time. And I was actually in my office working, and I didn't have my crutches, but I slipped, and I stepped on my leg, and it popped back into place, and 98% of the pain was gone like that. So I just never went back because I didn't want to have surgery. And that's kind of how it's been since then. So
He doesn't want to have surgery because he's worried it will make it worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of wisdom in that. And commonly, if the pain went away that quickly, it's probably not just your meniscus. There's probably other things going on that set the stage for that, which the predisposition for all that probably happened when the femur got broken. Yeah. And there's ways to rehab that, fix all that are not surgical, that work really, really, really well. You know, I've got a big background in orthopedics, huge. When I was in the school clinic, my clinic advisor was the guy that ran the orthopedic program in at least 5 states. He pulled me in his office twice, and once was to try and get an orthopedic ticket. And I told him I didn't have time for plaques on the wall. I had a family, and I need to spend time with my family and not get a plaque on the wall. And he keeps trying to talk to me, and he finally says, "Look, I run the orthopedic program in 5 states. You know more than 80% of my docs that teach it. You need a plaque on the wall." Said, "It had no value to me." And he just didn't understand it. But we've been able to keep at least 80% of people out of surgery and everything that we've touched. So there's ways to do it. We just got to look at it and find out what's really going on and address that. But the meniscus is usually a result of other things that have set the stage, along with everything else. And once you start to address those, you can do that pretty well. And looking at some of the pictures that you had, looks like your house is under construction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right now.
Do you do carpentry yourself, Scott?
No.
Okay.
I'm good at a lot of things. That is not one of them.
Yeah, because there's some really simple things you can do if you're a carpenter to really rehab your knee and make it really well. So that was one thing that I had a question with. Okay, and Rebecca, when we look at you with 3 generations of cancer issues and children having indications of thyroid issues where you had your cancer, that's suggestive of lifestyle issues. That's not genetics. Do you understand epigenetics at all?
Yes, and like often talk to people about only 5% of cancers are actually genetics at all, and it's more like it runs in families because of lifestyle factors and what you're exposed to and what you eat and how you live.
Yep, and that's it. That's the huge flag. Epigenetics is how your lifestyle affects genetic expression. Every gene has 30,000 potential ways to express itself, and how we live affects that. And every aspect of life, belief systems, relational interaction, relational health, diet, the list has no end. It just has no end. But when you see something like that, it lets you know there's some major defects in family lifestyle patterns. Diet usually has a huge part to do with that, and that's really huge. So if we look at one other question. You guys both had a history of Lyme disease in the past. Any history of ticks with that?
Yeah, we actually were looking for properties in Tennessee, and it was the first time, to my knowledge, I was ever bit by a tick. Ticks are very infrequent in Michigan, or they used to be. We both got bit on the same property showing with some nymph ticks. We found them only a handful of hours later, somewhere in the range of like 4 to 7 hours after they would have been attached. Or bitten, got on us, not even attached, I guess. About 10 days later, I got all the classic symptoms minus the rash of Lyme disease. And then a day later, he got the stiff neck and like the, burning joint pain and headaches. And his symptoms were less severe and lasted less long. And I had chosen to do doxycycline, even though at that time I was adamantly opposed to antibiotics. And I did that alongside an herbal protocol, which was Buhner's herbal protocol. But 2 weeks into doing that, I found out I was pregnant. So I stopped all of it because none of it was really safe for pregnancy. And Scott continued on with the rest of his, was it a 5 or 6 week course of doxy?
Yeah, it wasn't. I know. I think it was like 10 or 11. It wasn't very long. It wasn't the 20 something.
Oh, yours was 14. Mine was 5 weeks, but I only did 2 weeks. And then that was, once I stopped treating mine early, he stopped treating his. He's never had symptoms come back of it though, and I have symptoms that come and go.
And prior to that, I probably had between 5 and 10 over my lifetime, between being in the military, hunting, just being outdoors.
And I had 1.
Yeah. So over the lifetime, the noise in the background, that 5 to 10
between
ticks?
Probably, yeah, 5 to 10 ticks embedded over my lifetime.
No shot.
And you took doxy for
Just
14? How long ago was that?
2020? Was the summer of 2020?
No, yes, 5 years. It was July of 2020. 5 years.
Okay, were you still nursing your son at that time?
No, we were in Tennessee in an Airbnb. I got bit and I literally stopped nursing him then because I had extra milk with me. So I cold turkeyed him as soon as I found the tick, which at most had been attached for a few hours. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I knew that it could be transmitted through the breast milk and I didn't want to risk getting.
Yeah, so that's kind of suggestive that you might have had it before then. Has he had any indication of starting that on his own?
Of Lyme symptom? Yeah, so the biggest thing that I noticed with him is he's so stiff in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
He walks like a pirate almost, he doesn't really bend his knees. And that could be related to something else, but he's stiff in the mornings. He doesn't have a lot of stamina, doesn't have a lot of endurance type of energy. He doesn't really like being out in the heat too much, but all those can be related to adrenals and other things. So it's hard to like narrow it down to one single cause. But
Yeah.
he's been bit by multiple ticks.
Well, was he stiff like that since he was a young infant, or did that?
I don't remember him being stiff like that. I mean, no, I think it's really been more in the last year or so, don't you?
Probably.
Okay. As I was just wondering, with all the interaction that goes on, Lyme disease is a fluid transfer disease. It's not a tick-borne disease, just a tick-borne disease. Ticks transfer fluid, but anything that transfers fluid from one host to another will transfer Lyme disease. So it's in the sexual fluids, breast milk, blood supply. It's in a certain amount of food. If you're eating rare venison, that can easily do it. Mosquito bites, they've tracked the Lyme bacteria from the egg of a mosquito through the nymph, larva, adult, and it's still active and easily transferable. Biting flies, gnats, mosquitoes down the south, it's really, really common. So whenever you have a couple that have any functional intimacy whatsoever, one has it, the other one's exposed, and it's common to be a carrier and not necessarily symptomatic. And the symptoms will usually show once you hit the wall with stress and it pushes you over the cliff, the immune system gets depressed, and then it breaks out. The doxycycline, it pushes it into biofilms, and it'll hide in biofilms. Research says 17 years. We've seen it last longer than that. It's just whenever stress hits, it breaks out. So if we back up and we look at all this stuff, there's a whole host of symptoms going on. Both you and both your children have a fair amount of rashes, right?
Elena we've noticed recently, like she's red under her eyes, but she doesn't really have any rashes. Elijah has always been the one who has the dry, bumpy skin, and he's very prone to rashes. As a child, I was very prone to rashes. I had like elevated histamine, and like if I like touched my skin, it would raise up. Like I could like write on my skin and you could see the letters that I was writing. Scott, he has what almost looks like psoriasis. He gets rashes on his chest, his scalp, his face. Yeah.
Okay, rashes are almost always tied into gut dysfunction. With that toxicity, psoriasis is absolutely a result of that. We've got two different pathways of detox. Phase 1, there's 5 different routes of phase 1. Phase 1 makes things more toxic. That's what creates free radicals. And phase 2 makes those water soluble so we can excrete them into the toilet. The 3 out of the 4 detox organs is inside of the gut. Small intestinal wall, colon wall, and the gut flora. The liver is supposed to be the catch-all for everything else, and outside of that, we don't have detox organs. So when those get overwhelmed, like say the gut gets too much inflammation, it goes into atrophy, the microvilli atrophy. All of the good flora washes down the toilet and pathogens grow, and after that, we don't digest food, we ferment it and we rot it, and it creates this huge toxic environment that the liver can't catch, so it spills out systemically. Your lungs and your skin are your secondary elimination organs. So whenever you see rashes, things like that, it lets you know the detox pathways are clogged. There's too much toxicity being either generated in the body or added on top. And every case I've seen, which is a lot of cases of mold, autoimmune issues, Lyme, and all that, the bulk of the toxicity comes out of the gut. And then the environmental ones add on top of that from a beat-up immune system. Over half the immune system is in the gut, and it's that way because God designed the immune system to be in the place where we're most likely to get attacked. And that the gut is just the place for that to happen. So when you see respiratory issues in the past, like what you had, Rebecca, or skin issues like that, it lets you know detox pathways are clogged. Elimination isn't going out the normal pathways. And when it can't go out the normal pathways, it goes out the secondary pathways. What can't get out those pathways, it starts to store in the fats. That's where the cancer comes in. It takes 3 things to set the stage for cancer to grow, and a 4th spark to create it. The 3 things are low nutrient density, acidic pH. With acidic pH, you cannot absorb, carry, deliver, or utilize oxygen, low oxygen. And on top of that, it just takes inflammatory spark to start the cancer. When you look at our organ systems, the most sensitive organs we have is the hormonal organs. They're all 50% fat. Thyroid is the first one to get affected. The adrenal's the second. So there you have the thyroid cancer issue. You've got this metabolic perfect storm there, and you add toxicity on top of that, and that's what creates all of that stuff. The nodules are just an indication of the same type of thing. So that's clogged detox pathways. And you look at the bumpy skin on your son, what you're talking about when you were young, that is malabsorption, food intolerances, different things along that line that sets that stage. And the skin it's like a window to look into the health on a whole bunch deeper side. Once you understand how to look at it, it tells you a picture's worth 1,000 words. It really is. I've been able to do complete consults just off looking at people's pictures. They're that important. They really are. And I can look back and forth at what people write in their papers that they send me and back at the pictures that they have. You can tell hormonal dysfunctions by body shapes. You can tell toxicity issues by body shapes. You can tell absorption issues from skin things. You can tell food intolerance from skin things. It's pretty amazing once you understand what you're looking at, and that is something that's been apparent throughout. So it's always a beat-up immune system that sets the stage for people to get Lyme disease. Our immune system it's like the national defense system that we have. It works at that kind of efficiency. Nothing should be able to get in, even something that's really stealth. But when you take something like doxycycline, it causes inflammatory destruction of what's left of the gut wall. It destroys what's left of the gut flora, and the pathogens just go wholesale. And inside the body where the Lyme bacteria are supposed to be, within 2 hours it's driving them into biofilms, and they'll hide out there forever. And they'll break out whenever you get stressed. Some people have more of a constitution where they don't necessarily get so symptomatic like you, Scott. And some people are weaker and they have the symptoms all the time. It's common that women become more symptomatic because almost all the toxicity in the world is estrogenic. You look at all your herbicides, they're estrogenic. You look at plastics, they're estrogenic. You look at all of the things that go on, all your pharmaceuticals, they're estrogenic. Men don't have as many estrogen receptors. So that protects us more than women, because women have a lot more estrogen receptors because that's how they're built. All these environmental toxins affect them a whole bunch more. But if we look at our men and women embryologically, we're identical till about 7 weeks. And then
and Scott growing up, they'd eat just more whole foods and healthier. His dad gardened, they ate a lot of their own foods, and we were very much like instant potatoes and hamburger helper and like ravioli out of the can type family. We lived next to a cornfield that got crop dusted all the time, and I was probably on antibiotics a minimum, like a 7 to 10 day course, a minimum of 2 times a year my whole life, sometimes more than that really. And I don't think you really hardly ever recall having them, except when you got he did almost get sepsis when he broke his knee, but outside of that, he's been.
Yeah, so that sets the stage for a lot of things, because an interesting thing, Roundup, the most commonly known herbicide that people are aware of, it first came on the market as a drain cleaner, believe it or not. And the reason for the drain cleaner, it chelates minerals and it pulled them out of the clogged pipes. Well, it does the same thing in all biological forms. It converts the minerals that we would utilize in biology into unusable forms. and locks them up. And with that, that shuts down detox pathways and everything. The bacteria that grow in our gut, the bacteria that feed the plants and use the same pathways we use to detox. Cytochrome P450 stage is the shikimate pathway that does that. And, you go on and on and on, but it does it by locking the minerals up. So nothing works. Absolutely nothing works. And then people are real vulnerable. So the earlier that happens, the more you set the stage for everything, which is another part of the reason why the cancer issues. So those are highly cancerogenic, and Roundup isn't the highest in that. Atrazine is at least 10 times worse than that. That's in all your cornfields. If you're around corn and they're crop dusting that, then you have that. So that's what sets all the stage for that. Those things can be undone in a huge way, but you've got to set the course of life in a direction where you're actually addressing everything. Food and diet, gut health is key in that. It's absolutely key. So it's pretty critical. So if you First of all, even Harvard admits that the doxycycline does not clear Lyme disease. It only hopes to reduce its reproduction so the immune system can take care of it. Once it gets in the biofilm, the immune system can't touch it. Antibiotics can't touch it. Almost all the biofilm busters that we've tested don't do anything, and they're too toxic to use. We use some creative ways to get it into every tissue, even the bone marrow, and deal with things like that. But with young children, all that is obvious. You guys have some kind of functional intimacy, and there's no way that one of you could have it and not the other. And with your son having it, we already know that for sure. It's likely that you might have had that before he was born. He may have gotten that some other way.
Quick question for you on that though, since it is so prevalent and people are getting bit by more and more ticks are getting tested positive for it. You obviously don't want to avoid the outdoors. There's ways to be smart about it, but from a perspective of I won't name names, some people like really raw beef and raw meat, not raw venison, but raw beef. So then if you're continuing to contract this, even if you're asymptomatic, you're continuing to pass it along to your family. So how can you be preventative without living in a bubble?
It's really, really easy when you think of eating meats like what you're talking about. The beef is the only animal in the world you can hang to cure, because there's a microbiome in the meat itself that actually breaks down the connective tissue and tenderizes it. And that's an average of 10 days. There's no other meat that does that. Where I grew up, deer hunting was 105 degrees outside on average. Anybody that hung their deer even put it in a bag to keep the blowflies off. It had maggots within 36 hours on the outside. So that depends a whole bunch on a lot of things. You look at organ meats like the liver, understanding what the liver does. It's an immune system issue. It's a filter to catch all the microbes that come out of the gut. It's a detox organ. It makes no sense to do that whatsoever. If you look at cultures around the world that eat raw meat, I think there's a tribe in Africa that will take animal meat and tie it between the thighs of another animal for a small period of time and call that cooking. And that really doesn't make sense, because that's not clean at all, and they don't have water to wash it, and their water is extremely toxic as far as that goes. Here in the States, most of the meats that people get are from feedlots, and those are really toxic. You can have all kinds of toxic microbes growing inside of that, and it doesn't make sense to eat raw meat as far as that goes. You look traditionally, like in the Orient sushi, you can easily scrutinize how clean fish are. You can tell by the scales how clean the meat is, what the fat content is, whether that is going to be sushi meat or not. And they also have things with it to kill the parasites, like the ginger. It'll kill the parasites when you eat it. Not the case with mammal meat. It's not at all. And there's not really anything you can do with that. You can have it medium rare and be safe, but you get blood rare, and that's just not the case. As far as lifestyle issues, people that are outdoors, I grew up in the outdoors. I couldn't tell you how many ticks I've had. It's got to be way over 100, maybe in the hundreds. Where I used to live, I'd wake up in the middle of the night, they'd crawl in bed and get you in bed in the middle of the night. It was insane how many ticks were there. It's just a good idea if you're outdoor people to, when you come in the evening, do tick checks.
Yeah, we always do. It's just when you find them when they're already attached. And so that you're saying that you wouldn't be eating rare meat.
Medium rare, as long as it's pink, you're probably okay. But rare, there's no way to protect yourself. Absolutely none. And then you're just living in a fear bubble of, first of all, your immune system might be doing pretty well, but your children's isn't developed yet. Your son, he's just got the elementary side of the immune system about working fully, but the rest of it not the case. I was surprised. We went to, years ago, Williamsburg up in Virginia. That's where Thomas Jefferson lived and some other things, and they rebuilt that institution. We went into their fellowship hall there, which was kind of interesting and unique. And I asked the guy, so what do they do with the children? He goes, children? What children? I said, well, the children that people had. He said, people didn't let their children out in public. I go, what? They knew their immune systems weren't strong enough till children were 17 years of age. And they were not allowed into town, out in public. They interacted a little bit with neighbors, but that was it till they're 17 years of age. They knew more about things way back 200-300 years ago than we do now. We're going to cut this video right here. It's getting too long, and we will continue this in the next session. So stay tuned and for the next one, and we'll finish this.